Congratulations, you did it. You made it past the first audition. All of your hard work up to this point has paid off, but you aren't home free just yet. Before you lies the ultimate deciding factor in whether or not you're gonna march drum corps this summer. The final round of auditions, the callback. Now you may be thinking, is the callback audition really that different from the first round? To which I'd say this. The audition process itself is going to look largely the same, just with harder audition material. What does change, however, are the expectations and mindsets that you need to have regarding your audition. Here's the thing. Everyone who made it to the callback round can march, play, and/or dance. For the most part, a drum corps doesn't give someone a callback unless that person has a genuine shot at making the line. The staff are looking for the best of the best, and that's easier said than done. Usually these decisions they have to make come down to the finest of details, and it's in these situations that every single one of those details could make or break your chances at marching the next season. The competition is super tight when it comes to deciding who's going to be on the line and who is invited to come back next year. My goal with this video, much like the first one, is to share some tips and advice that I've gained over my 5 years of drum corps experience and 6 years of audition experience to help you succeed at the callback audition. By the way, if you haven't seen my first video, hit the pause button real quick and go check it out. All the information from that video applies to the callback as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. You can think of there being one main difference between what the staff is looking for in the first round of auditions versus what they're looking for at the callback. In the first round, they're simply looking for the people who got the skills to pay the bills. If you show that either you've been grinding hard enough at the audition material or you just have enough natural talent, then congratulations, you get a callback. After the first round, however, they're looking for the people who seem like they will actually be able to keep up with the demands of a drum corps season. Just because you can play an etude really well, march at a really fast tempo, or throw a rifle really high, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to succeed in a drum corps environment. There are so many factors that go into whether or not you're going to succeed during a summer of drum corps, but I believe most of these factors fall into 3 main categories: being prepared, being teachable, and being confident. Let's dive a little bit more into each of these categories, talk about exactly what they mean and why they're important. Tip number 1, be prepared. As you've been looking at the audition materials for the callback, you've probably noticed something. They're a lot harder than the first audition, and that's done very intentionally. There's a chance that you can just kind of skate by through the first round if you're just a natural marching band monster. But that simply won't be the case for the callback. You have to put the hours in to prepare for the last audition, and it's going to be so obvious to the people in front of you if you haven't put in the work. For those couple weeks in between the first and last round of auditions, you really need to obsess over the audition materials and the technique packet if you want to increase your chances of getting a spot. Drum corps is a challenging activity that requires a lot of preparation and sacrifice before and during the season. More on that later in the video. And if you aren't willing to put in the work now, then you really have no business committing your whole winter, spring, and summer to this activity. Now, I don't say this to scare you away from giving it a shot, but I just want to drive the point home that if you really want to make the drum corps of your dreams, you need to lock in and do the hard, tedious work that the other people you're auditioning with might not be willing to do. You need to give yourself every leg up that you can because you're fighting for a limited number of spots. Trust me, one of the worst feelings in the world is getting the audition result you didn't want. And then thinking to yourself, man, if only I just put in a little more time, if I just practiced this one move a little more, then maybe I'd be looking at a contract right now. All of the shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff can be avoided if you just put in the work right now. If you truly give it your all and you still get rejected, then at least you did everything you could. And you've learned how to put in the work so that when you come back next year, you know what you're doing and the contract is yours for the taking. Proper preparation also gives you a better, more confident attitude going into the callback camp that will help you deal with the nerves of auditioning. More on the confidence thing later, by the way. The hours and hours of practicing and preparation that you do before your audition serves as proof to yourself and by proxy to everyone around you that you are someone worthy of getting that spot. And when you have that proof, that evidence that you've done everything you're supposed to do, it gives you the excuse to truly believe in yourself. And as cheesy as it sounds, believing in yourself and your ability is one of the most important aspects to performing your best in the audition room. Put in the work right now so you can reap the rewards after callback camp. Practice the audition materials until you can't get them wrong, you just can't miss. And by the way, don't forget to study up on the technique packet. Read every single word in the packet and pay attention to how the veteran members of the drum corps operate. How do they hold their horns or their equipment? How do they stand during rehearsal? What's their exact mark time technique? How do they breathe before a note? How high are their elbows when their horn is up? These are the really easy things that you can accidentally slip up on in the audition room. If you play all your notes flawlessly, but you're holding your horn the completely wrong way, that's going to negatively affect your audition results. So in conclusion, it's no surprise that preparation is important for an audition, but just keep in mind that the final round of auditions for a drum corps require an intense level of dedication and attention to detail. Tip number 2, be teachable. When deciding which performers are going to be accepted into a drum corps, the staff running the audition make the call based on how well they believe the student will handle a season of drum corps. And one of the most important traits in determining whether someone will succeed during the season is teachability. While an entire summer might seem like a long time to work on and perfect a single marching arts show, when you consider how many moving parts there are and the level of achievement that's expected of the performers, it really ends up feeling like time is always tight during the season. Rehearsals are fast-paced, especially when you get on tour, and new show chunks need to make their way from Sibelius to the stadium in a matter of days or even hours. Performers have to be able to pick up new music, drill, and choreo quickly in order to succeed, and thus, this is a quality that the staff is looking for in the students they decide to sign. So how do you show off this ability at the callback camp? Well, it can be tricky. Some groups might not have a specific part of their audition process that's dedicated to testing this skill. As such, it's very important to showcase your ability to pick things up quickly whenever you're given the opportunity. If you're given feedback on something and told to do it again, apply every piece of that feedback to the best of your ability on the next rep. Try not to ask too many questions, but don't be afraid to ask for clarification if something is about to go seriously wrong. But for the love of God, please never ask the question, why?
Why?
It's hard to practice being more teachable, but it's not too difficult to master. Just stay in the mindset of being an information sponge during all hours of rehearsal. Even if you've been standing there doing the same rep for 3 hours straight, keep your brain on and stay 100% engaged in rehearsal. Tip number 3 is to be confident. Confidence. According to the American Confidence Institute, which is apparently a thing, and I quote, "Confidence continuously tops the lists of desirable traits in a romantic partner and was named by Forbes as one of the top 3 traits employers look for in prospective employees." But of course, confidence isn't just important in job seeking and advancing in the stages of romantic courtship. It's also vital to a successful audition. Like I said before, at the callback, everyone can march, play, and dance. And with that being the case, it becomes important to find any way you can to stand out from the rest. And if there's one person I know that teaches and preaches the gospel on confidence and standing out like no one else, I'd like to introduce a very special guest to the show, the Bluecoats brass caption head, Kevin LeBoeuf. One of the most obvious differences between the callback camp and the first round of auditions is that at the callbacks, for the most part, everyone can march and play. And so I think one of the biggest things on students' minds going into this camp is like, how do I stand out? And so, Kevin, in your professional opinion, with your many years of success as a brass caption head, what would you say are some of the ways that a student could stand out from the rest?
It's a good question. A lot of people show up at callback camps. A lot of people get intimidated by how many people that they show up with. Once you start doing the numbers and you think, oh my God, what are the odds of me making a spot? Already off to a bad start. We're looking for students that aren't thinking about other people. You know, you just tell they have this confidence about them. They have this ability to focus on themselves and to be engaged and to be authentically themselves and to not be afraid to be put on the spot. And like when you are in that crowd, it's hard to think or perceive how you could stand out. But like when you're in our role, standing in front of this group, it's so obvious when you look down a line of 60 baritones, say, that are called back to camp. You can just tell. There's just so many intangibles. It's the way that people look at you when you instruct. It's the way that people answer questions. It's the way that they play. When you're walking down the line, you just hear this confidence about their sound. So, you know, I think that what can I do feels like such a, like, is there a magic thing to do? And I don't know that there is. I think that it's woven into the fabric of how you present yourself the entire weekend. It really comes from confidence, and confidence comes from preparation. And I think that's the secret. It all stems from that preparation aspect of things.
Right. Awesome. So Kevin, would you have any sort of tips or tricks as far as how you can build that mindset of confidence in a drum corps setting?
Drum corps itself calls for an extroverted personality. We're asking people to really put themselves out there in front of a lot of people and try to be like larger than life. But, you know, you don't have to be inherently extroverted to be successful in drum corps, to make a drum corps. There are some students that, you know, in their normal real lives, they're pretty quiet, that I performed with, that I teach. But when it's time for them to be on the spot, it's almost like they're this new character. Like they get in character. They become this different person when it's time to put the show on the road. And then rehearsal's over, whatever. We're after rehearsal getting on the bus and they're back to their person of few words kind of self. If you're introverted and you're trying to claim that spot, if you're at a callback camp and you're trying to stand out, I think you almost have to get into character, for rehearsal, because we want to see someone that is like engaged, ready to be, exciting. So there is a bit of acting that has to happen, I think, like during that time. You have to come off as someone that's going to be able to entertain a crowd. That's the gig. If you want to be in a drum corps, the whole point is to entertain people and to make people feel great. And I think that you can show that you're performance minded in rehearsal by just being that person. I tell people at audition camps, if you've seen any Bluecoats finals performance, there's no secret how we want you to play and how to act. And it's with that unabashed confidence. So in a way, you got to turn it on a rehearsal in all aspects of things.
I like when you talk about people who are more introverted at heart and then trying to sort of put on a performance or put on a character, kind of come across as that more sort of outgoing, maybe extroverted person, because that was absolutely me. Like, that's absolutely the person that I was. It was just kind of embracing that discomfort. When you kind of feel like you're putting on that act, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. You're putting yourself out there more than you're used to. And part of it is just like, there are 50 other people there at the same camp in the exact same position as you. And so it's just like getting used to that discomfort, knowing that, no one's out to get you. Like, you aren't in any real danger socially, like, performance-wise, anything like that. And so I think just getting used to that discomfort, teaching yourself to overcome that discomfort is absolutely part of that, helping create that performance and helping you stand out, even if that's not sort of the person that you are intuitively. So
Totally agreed. The other thing is that when students prepare for camps, they spend a lot of time in practice rooms, or for me, it was my parents' basement, where the only thing around me was the spider crickets that I had to fend off as I was practicing. And that's great. And your preparation and your neuron, those connections can form there in the practice room by yourself. But, when it comes to doing it at camp, I find that some students kind of short circuit when you have to do it in front of people. How many times have I heard during a assignment that we asked students to play material on the move, they say, oh my God, that never happens. There's no secret why that never happens. It's because you don't have the experience of doing that for other people. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that even if it's just one person, it's your friend that's just like, hey, I'm going to put myself on the spot for you right now. I'm going to do my whatever. I'm going to do my dance. I'm going to do my assignment that has me playing on the move. And you can learn a lot about your tendency when that happens. I remember in undergrad in college, I had this great honor of being selected to play a euphonium solo with a symphonic band. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I worked this up in the practice room. And I hadn't typically had problems playing for people. I was so proud of it. And I played it for the director in his office, and it was all good. Came to rehearsal and I was shaking and my chops were doing things that I never thought could happen to my setup. And I was like, what is going on? And I was just like, is it really playing in front of people? And it's one of those things you don't know until it happens. So, I would say whatever experience you can get playing for 1, 2, 3 friends, whether it be a roommate, a sibling when you go home for the holidays, anything, I think it's time really well spent, because you can work things up and get the notes and the rhythms, but then practicing performance quality is another thing. And so doing that in front of people is great, and it'll prepare you for camp, because we ask people at camp to do things in front of their peers all the time, and sometimes it's the scariest thing in the world.
I wanted to talk about mistakes, the idea of good mistakes and bad mistakes. What is it that makes a good mistake? What makes a bad mistake? And why are some mistakes better than others?
Great question. This question is so much a part of our audition mindset mission. We're trying to find the coldest musicians in the world. We want that mentality in every single aspect of rehearsal. There are different schools of thought on this, and I butt heads with people that I work with during the fall in different marching bands and whatnot. Some people think that all mistakes are bad, and that the point of rehearsal is to be pristine and clear. And, I think some people think that it's black and white, mistake bad, not mistake good. That doesn't account for students not making a mistake because they don't play, not making a mistake because they're playing softer than everyone else, not making a mistake because they'll end before everyone else. I hate scaring students into being perfect, because that creates clean, sure, but if you're clean and exciting or clean and authentic, I think that is 10 times as good. And I think the only way to do that is to encourage students to go for it no matter what. If you're going to be asked to do something, do it all the way. And then we'll figure it out on the backside whether, what you did was the right thing. The how you do things is really what I'm focused on, especially early on. When a student hangs over a big release, your gut as an instructor is to say, hey, don't do that. And we as a staff try to never do that. If they went for it, if the group was asked to play Fortissimo and they held over a release of Fortissimo, they get first applauded by the staff. Like, yes, oh my God, thank you for making a choice. Thank you for going for it. And then they're told, maybe we don't do that again. But, I think that's like a telltale sign of, yes, you have the killer mentality. You can't sneak into anything. You don't get a warm-up time. I mean, you just think about any professional show you've ever seen, whether it be Broadway, whether it be a show in Las Vegas. The performers don't get to come out stage and kind of, all right, and then we're singing. And then, it's like, you have to come out on stage ready to go. I mean, one of my favorite videos ever is the behind the scenes for The Shining. It's Jack Nicholson. And you're looking at all the cameras, you're looking at the boom mics, you're looking at the whole thing. They haven't started filming yet. It's just someone on like a personal camera. And he's backstage and he's got the knife in his hands and he is like hitting himself. He's grunting, he's growling, he's yelling. He is freaking me out, and the scene has not even started yet. And the crew clearly at this point knows his shtick, and they're like operating around him being ready. And he's like, I'm ready. Like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And then he goes right into the scene. And I think that, when you're in a drum corps rehearsal, especially audition camps, you're in the scene. Warming up is you walk into rehearsal, then you're in there and you're acting, you're in the scene for those 3 hours, which is a lot. We're asking college age students to focus a lot. We're asking for 100% focus for 3 hours. Then you get an hour lunch. Then you get 3 hours of the most focused you've ever been. Then you get an hour dinner, and then it's a lot. So you have to be in that character, and those good mistakes come from you not letting off the gas. If you make a good mistake, if you hung over a release, if you play a big old accent, but you do it because you're in character, we're never going to be upset. We call that a good mistake. A bad mistake, what's difficult as an instructor is that they're really hard to find. But they're the things that kill us the most when you get to the end. You want a group that's able, if I have 80 brass players, they're all going all the way into the phrase. It's so hard to tell. Did 60 go to the end of the phrase? Did 60 go to the end of the phrase, and then did 10, stop playing out of fear? That is a mentality that, we try to really, squash that fear. We don't want you performing to be clean out of fear. We want you performing to be clean out of excellence. So yeah, good mistakes, bad mistakes. Ultimately, audition season is stressful no matter what. There's a lot of pressure on all the students. I remember going to audition for the drum corps. I thought was the drum corps of my dreams. I had just switched from baritone saxophone to baritone. And even though I didn't have years of experience as a baritone player, my high school friends, my high school teachers, my parents, my small community knew I was going to go somewhere to put myself out there to try to do this thing. When you tell someone you're going to do something, that puts a lot of pressure on you. So there you are at camp, and you're thinking, oh man, so-and-so's counting on me. If I don't make this is, they're going to hate, they're going to be disappointed, and I let them down, and I'm not as good as I thought. I had all those thoughts, and I was cut. And I remember feeling that way, but I wasn't ready. The people auditioning me did the best thing they could have done for me, which is tell me I'm not ready at this time. And at the time, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear you're not ready for this. They're not saying you're not good. They're not saying you're untalented. They're just saying this is not for you yet. I think the worst thing a drum corps could do for a student is get into a situation where they're going to be unsuccessful, because you can't hide in drum corps. There's a responsibility from the people auditioning you to get the right people in the group. And there's also a responsibility to make sure the right people go march other drum corps. And that's what I did. I went and marched another drum corps, had a great summer. I used those skills to go audition for another drum corps, and that ultimately became my home. So I'll say, in closing, you can put pressure on yourself, but don't think anyone is going to feel like you let them down or be disappointed or think less of you. Drum corps is now my career, and I experienced all those thoughts, and it was all proven not to be true. So just enjoy the experience, do your very best. Preparation is king, and don't sweat it. You'll end up where you need to end up.
Kevin, thank you, sir. This has all been great. If you live under a rock and you don't know who Kevin LeBoeuf is, I will have his social media linked in the description, and you can go check him out. Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate
it. Thank you, Andy. It's great to see you.
Auditioning for a drum corps or preparing for a drum corps season can be an exciting but stressful time, especially if you've never done it before. Because of how different of an experience it is compared to regular marching band, there are a lot of unknowns. Navigating drum corps preparation on your own can be kind of like driving through a city you've never been to before without a map. It's possible, but it's so much easier with a little guidance. If you ask any veterans of the drum corps space, they're likely going to tell you one of the best ways to prepare for drum corps is to take private lessons from someone who has done it before. And thankfully with the internet, and especially after it's now easier than ever to take private lessons online over video calls from literally anywhere in the world. For those of you who don't know, I'm currently offering private lessons to anyone and everyone embarking on the drum corps journey. Whether it's your rookie season or you've been at it for a few years and you're just trying to brush up on certain skills, I want to help you not only reach your goals, but help you discover new ways to make your personal practice time more efficient and help you get better faster. I have 5 years of experience learning from some of the absolute best marching arts educators in the world. I've been taught by countless caption award holders, DCI gold medalists, people who know how to do the marching band thing to the highest level. I also have over 2 years of experience as an instructor both with high school band programs and as a private lessons teacher. Over the years, I've collected more knowledge of the marching arts than I frankly know what to do with, so my goal is to share this experience with you in a personalized, one-on-one weekly format so that you can walk into your first day of spring training with way less nerves and uncertainty and way more readiness and confidence. I offer 1-hour weekly lessons as well as 2-hour-long intense private workshops to really dig deep into your personal tendencies and build a strong foundation of the most important skills in the activity. You can choose between music-focused or visual-focused lessons, or just do both. I'm only able to offer a handful of slots right now, so if you're interested in taking lessons from a 5-year world-class drum corps age-out, check out the link to the Google Form sign-up sheet in the description. And did I mention you get a 25% discount for your first 1-hour lesson? Anyways, let's move on to the final callback tip, which is to know the contract that you're signing. The callback camp is over, and after months or even years of preparation and a stressful, nerve-wracking weekend, you have been offered a contract. All of the time, stress, and hard work has paid off, and the door to your dreams has been opened in front of you. It's a very emotional moment, and if you're like me, you may even shed a manly tear, or two, or several. And in that moment, it's going to be very easy to just go ahead and sign the contract without thinking twice. And for the most part, I think you should. Your drum corps isn't going to scam you or anything. This isn't a DCI expose or anything like that. This is the thing you've worked so hard for, and you should absolutely redeem that award for all the work you've done. With that being said, I want to take the time now to talk about exactly what you're signing up for so that you can start to mentally prepare yourself for what lies beyond the contract. The contract itself contains a lot of information about rules, both DCI rules and individual drum corps rules, basically a whole bunch of stuff telling you what not to do. But that doesn't paint a picture of what signing up for drum corps truly entails. It probably doesn't say much about the kind of work and time commitments you're going to have to make in order to be successful. So I want to talk about a few key things to be aware of before signing a drum corps contract. I feel like I've said the word contract like 500 times. First of all is the time commitment. As we all know, life is full of sacrifices. There are only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week, and we have to choose how much of that time we're going to give up to be able to do certain things. If you're in school, you have to sacrifice some of your time playing Fortnite so that you have enough time to do homework. If you have a 9-to-5 job, you have to sacrifice even more Fortnite time in exchange for being able to keep your hunger bar full. The more things you do in your life, the more time you have to put towards doing those things, which gives you less time to do other things. Thank you, Andy, for explaining how time works. Drum corps preparation is the exact same way, and there might be more of a time commitment involved than you would expect. This will vary from corps to corps, but for the most part, you're going to have weekly assignments that you have to submit that are going to take at least a few hours per week, and that's on top of your typical practicing schedule, in which you're going to want to spend at least a few more hours per week or even per day to make sure your skills are where they need to be as you head into spring training. This might mean you're gonna have to give up a few things in your life so that you have enough time to put towards your drum corps preparation. You'll have to make some sacrifices like hanging out with your friends a little less or spending a little less time camo grinding on Black Ops 6 zombies every night. Doing drum corps might not mean your entire life has to come to a halt in order to have enough time to practice your scales, but it's important to note that this is going to be a significant new addition to your daily and weekly routine. Another thing you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing is hitting the gym, which leads me to my next point, physical preparation. It cannot be overstated how physically demanding of an activity drum corps is. For a long time, I've told people that drum corps is one of the most physically demanding things you can voluntarily sign yourself up for, besides like basic training for the military. Marathons? Yeah, people run entire marathons as preparation for the drum corps season. You'll need to get yourself into a serious routine of both strength training and cardiovascular exercise at least a few days a week, every single week between the callback camp and your first day of spring training. Injuries in drum corps unfortunately happen all the time, ranging from minor issues like sore muscles as well as more serious things like sprained joints and even broken bones. The number one way to prevent this from happening to you is to get in as much physical training before the season as you can. Most drum corps these days have some sort of prescribed training regimen that they'll give you, and even if they don't, there are thankfully resources out there such as Forte Athletics and Marching Health that have a ton of good information and even full-on training courses available on their social media. So go check them out if you're looking for a place to start. It's probably a good idea to get yourself a gym membership for preseason training, but that's unfortunately only a small part of the next thing to think about, the financial commitment. Ah yes, the elephant in the room. There's no good way to say it. Drum corps is expensive. Due to the rising costs of everything, drum corps is more expensive than ever, and this is unfortunately a huge barrier to entry for a lot of folks who want to do this activity. I can't tell you exactly how to manage your own financial situation, and just to be safe, this content is for information purposes only. You should not consider any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. But I can tell you ways that I've seen people save up enough to do drum corps. Number 1, fundraise. Chances are you have at least a few friends and family in your life who are willing to donate to you to help fund your drum corps dream. You can use tools like Venmo and GoFundMe to make this easier. Many drum corps also set up fundraisers or fundraising tools that their membership can use. Obviously, always be very respectful and say thank you to anyone who donates to you. Number 2, work. Try to find a part-time job and work a few hours per week to save up some dough. Number 3, scholarships. DCI.org posts scholarship opportunities every year on their website, and there are usually other third-party scholarships that you can search around for. These scholarships usually involve writing an essay or answering some questions, and if you win, they'll pay for a portion of your tour fees or sometimes even just pay your whole tuition outright. And finally, number 4, talk to your drum corps. If you get offered a contract, it's because the staff wants you on their team. And if you talk to them about your financial situation, there's a good chance they will work with you to help figure out how to make your summer possible. They usually have access to an extensive alumni network who want to help members like you. Again, always be very respectful and say thank you. It really goes a long way. The price of drum corps is a very controversial subject these days. I just want to express that in my opinion, it is still absolutely worth it. But with that being said, it's still something you need to take into consideration and plan ahead for before you sign your contract. Last but certainly not least is the emotional commitment associated with drum corps. This is probably not something that many people think of or talk about, but it's a very important factor in your success and overall well-being at drum corps. Like I said before, drum corps is an extremely physically challenging activity, but something you'll hear a lot of people say is that drum corps is 90% a mental game. It is absolutely possible to push through the physical demand of drum corps. Thousands of people have done it before, but something that can make or break your drum corps experience is how you handle the mental game. I'm in no position to try to give out mental health advice to an audience of strangers on the internet, but I'll ask you to take a second and think to yourself and ask yourself some hard questions. Do you struggle with things like anxiety, depression, or other types of mental illness? Do you struggle with rejection, with handling high levels of stress, or with difficult social situations? If there are things going on in your life that you know you should probably talk to someone about, but you've kind of been putting it off, preparing for drum corps can be a great excuse to finally get yourself to go and do it. There's a lot less stigma around mental health care than there was even just a few years ago, but I still want to make sure it gets said that seeking out professional help is in no way a sign of weakness. And in fact, it's something that can have an overwhelming benefit in all areas of your life. and especially your experience during the summer. Drum corps is an activity that will push you to your absolute limit in many different ways, which can be scary, but it can also have an extremely positive impact on your life for so many reasons. You will learn things about yourself and grow as a person in so many ways. When you come home after the summer, you'll be a different person than you were going into spring training. You won't just be skinnier and more tan. You'll be wiser, more mature, a harder worker. You won't just have more marching and playing skills, you'll have more life skills, more tools in your psychological tool belt to handle whatever you encounter in your life thereafter. You'll be better at loving your friends and family and showing gratitude for the people in your life. You'll be better at being unapologetically yourself and living your life the way you want to and being the person you want to be. Drum corps is so much more than just high-level marching band. It's a concentrated microcosm of life, in which a lifetime of experiences are condensed into one short summer, and the experiences that you have and the friendships you make will utterly and irreversibly change the rest of your life for the better. Drum corps has given me memories that I'll carry with me for as long as I'll live, and it has given me friends that will probably be at my wedding and probably be at my funeral. Drum corps is hard, and it's a huge investment, physically, financially, and emotionally. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that it is all, in the end, worth it. So keep practicing, keep putting in the work, be prepared, be teachable, and be confident. Walk into that callback camp and go take your contract. If you found this video at least somewhat helpful, please click the thumbs up button to leave a like. It does wonders in making sure the YouTube algorithm overlords share this video to other people who might find it helpful. If you'd like to stay updated on other drum corps videos I post in the future, please click the subscribe button and maybe even click on the little bell so you get a notification when I release more stuff in the future. I've got a few things coming down the pipeline, including a video going more into detail about preseason preparation, a video about success during the actual drum corps season, and maybe even a few bonus videos. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, get excited. If you have any questions for me or any information that I didn't touch on in this video that other people might find helpful, please scroll down and drop a comment on the video. I try to respond to the most pressing comments in a somewhat timely manner, and if you're interested in taking private lessons with me, scroll down to the description below and click on the link to the Google Form sign-up sheet. Thank you so much for watching and have fun at the callback camp. Now get back to practicing.